Hello, my name's Camden, and you might not have seen me for a long while. This is my first time uploading here in a little bit, and that doesn't mean that I've stopped playing these games. Life has gotten busy, and so I held off on uploading for a few sets of SWU, but I'm back, and I'm excited. I've been invigorated because of the Galactic Championships. This was the huge event that got held in Las Vegas just about a week ago, and I wanted to sit on my thoughts for a little bit to really get to process through everything and to really think, man, what was it that I loved the most? Well, sure enough, here it is. These are my galactic war stories. I am so excited to get to chat about an event that I absolutely loved. So here's the best parts of GCs, the things that I thought went super duper well. The first one is getting to interact with SWU fans from across the world. How cool is it to get to hang out with your locals, but to do so from far away? How cool is it to get to hang out with SWU fans from Brazil, from France, from the UK? I got to draft with a couple of guys from the UK like 3 or 4 times, and man, how fun was that? We were building camaraderies and friendships without even knowing each other super well. We just had a shared love for the game, and it was so awesome to get to be a part of that. My locals are awesome, but it's cool to get to just meet even more people, like 4,000 people, who are as excited about this game as you are. I absolutely loved it. I also love getting to chat with the devs and designers. These are people who pour their heart into this game, who care deeply about these cards and these abilities through all of these different things, and they want to hear what you have to say, but more importantly, it was awesome to get to hear what they had to say. I thought that they were very gracious with their time, and they were patient in how they listened to people who were complaining about force throw or talking about their favorite deck, people who were able to bring their jank or to bring their meta relevance and to show up and to play them in a designer duel or designer draft. And how cool was that? I absolutely loved just getting to hang out with these people, to really spend some time with folks who care so much about this game. I encourage you the next time that you're thinking man, do these devs even play these games? Do they even care? The answer is yes. Take a moment and think, yes, they do. It was so cool to get to hear their heart for this game, and it makes me excited for everything that is to come. I also loved beautiful and relevant prizing. One of my biggest concerns with prizing in all sorts of different games is if it's going to be worth using. I love having cool cards with great art, but if they sit in my binder the whole time, I don't really care. It's awesome and cool, and if it's my favorite character, great. But if I never put it in a deck, then what's it for? What I loved was having Mace Windu and Ezra Bridger, having Director Krennic show up. These cards that are relevant showing up in either the prize wall or the silver packs or the black packs. I thought it was so cool. And yeah, there are some cards that are more niche. Leia, Invisible Hand, Ahsoka. Yeah, that's fine. I think that it's cool that we got awesome art for these cards. The foiling was so pretty, and that ultimately these cards will most likely end up in a deck. Maybe it's not in your sealed or in your constructed deck, but it's probably in your Twin Suns deck. And if it's not, maybe build a deck around it. How cool is it to build a Twin Suns deck that has 15 Vulture Droids in it, and you hunt for your Invisible Hand, or to use Ahsoka, who's almost always on while you're playing Twin Suns. Such a fun set of prizes. I loved that. I also loved, I got some sleeves from the prize wall. I got some sleeves for signing up. I got an awesome mat. Maybe you were like me. When they revealed the Revan mat, you were like, oh, I'm going to have to get that, but I'm going to have to spend tickets on the prize wall. No, that was just what they gave us. That is beautiful and relevant. I love that they just felt like they had a heart for the player, they had their pulse on what the metagame was going to be and where it may be going, and then said from there, we're going to give you some good cards. We're going to give you some cards that are relevant, some mats that are relevant. And it was so cool. I loved having all of that. I thought that it was very, very well done. I also love getting to meet the artists. Maybe you noticed, but my Ezra Bridger is actually signed by Axel Hutt. You might be, yeah, you can see the signature there. Yeah, I got it signed by Axel Hutt, and I sadly wasn't able to bring more of my cards. I was limited in my space and in my time to get them together, and I ultimately wasn't able to bring all the cards I would have loved to have gotten signed. But what I did get to do was get to interact with these artists and get to say, I love your artwork. Your piece for this was so cool. Your piece for that is so awesome. And after hearing tons of negative feedback online, I imagine it was so cool for these artists to get to hear from people who love this game enough to travel across the world for it. And on top of that, who love this art enough to get their cards signed. I saw people who were bringing like whole collections there. How cool is that? I loved getting to meet the artists. And finally, the World Championship Tournament. Like the Galactic Championships was incredible. I loved 3 big things. First off, I only got to play in day 1. I made it 5-2-1. I went and tied my 3rd game, so I drew it. It meant that I was, in that weird limbo bracket, playing against all these slow control decks. I was playing Han2 Blue, and I loved getting to play all these games. Even though I ended up not making it to day 2, I had a blast. I was tired as heck, but I loved it. Again, I got to meet a bunch of people from across the world and hear their heart for this game. It was awesome. I loved getting to reconnect with them as the weekend went on and to get to be like, oh man, it's so cool to see you. That's awesome. So shout out to Doug, who I got to play round 1, and then we ended up chatting all weekend long. How cool is that? So that was cool. On top of that, it was a diverse field. Yeah, Han2 Blue showed up a ton, but ultimately it wasn't the deck that topped out, and it also wasn't a deck that held up such a large meta share that we didn't see anything else. So that leads into the third point of the top 8. Those final matches were incredible. It was so cool to get to see a crazy Kylo combo deck, to see Han 4, and ultimately have Talzin win it. It was so neat. The Force is relevant and active. I loved getting to see all of that. It was incredible. I absolutely loved the World Championship Tournament. GCs was so fun. And that's coming from a pseudo-competitive player. I think I'm good enough to do well. I'm not try-harding 24/7, and I thought that was great. There were people there who was their first big event. Awesome. There were people there who had been prepping for months. Awesome. It was so cool either way. Now, here are some of my biggest hopes. You might say that these are complaints, but they're really not. Some of the things that I'm going to talk about here in a second, I did have frustrations with, or I heard frustrations from other people while I was at the event. But I have hope that they are going to get better, because one thing I noticed was that each day it got better. Each day they were listening to our feedback. They were organizing lines. They were making things flow smoothly. And yeah, the prize wall line was humongously long on the last day. That was going to happen regardless. You know what they did? They gave me enough promo cards to fill out a whole binder of them. I have so many set 1, 2, 3, and 4 promo cards that I think I have a complete set for all of them, which is so sick. I loved getting those cards. Yeah, they're not the best cards in the world, but you know what? They were free. It made waiting in line a little bit more enjoyable. Seeing people pass out cards just a few feet ahead gave me something to look forward to. I loved it. So here are my biggest hopes. My first is a better prize wall system. I was just talking about it, but actually my biggest complaint was not the line. That was going to happen anyways. It was inevitable. My biggest complaint was the way that people were able to kind of game the system. I think it should be okay for people to play a bunch of side events and get a bunch of tickets. I don't think it's okay for people to just purchase all of their side event tickets and then, be able to just translate them into money, especially for Super Laser Blast and Mace, cards that are relevant, beautiful, and also sold out very fast. I was grateful that the guy behind the counter told me, hey, these are probably going to sell out. I went ahead and bought them right there because I was I don't know if I'm going to have the opportunity to get these. So I was able to get a couple, one of each, and that was really cool. But I think that they had a really great way to fix this. On all of our lanyards, they had those QR codes, and those QR codes worked for a couple of things. We scanned the QR codes for a couple of things. I think that they should have had a system that allowed for those QR codes to limit the number of cards bought by each player. Plain and simple. That way then you couldn't have someone show up and walk away with 100 super laser blasts. Instead, you can get a playset. You get 3 of them. And maybe at the end of Sunday, if there are tons left over, they open it up. But it allows everyone to have an opportunity throughout the weekend to get the cards that they want. And then in the last 3 hours, maybe, they open it up for whoever. I think that's the way to go. It felt like we had a natural system that just wasn't used, and I really wish that it was. That would be a great prize wall system. I also really loved that the ticket pricing was very fair. Everything there was adequately priced. I felt like I was getting my money's worth for each thing that I bought. I also got a ton of free tickets anyways. They were just kind of handing them out. It was pretty easy. Yeah, I bought side event tickets, but I also got tickets from just showing up to events. You got stuff. If you were there and were playing in games, you got side event or you got prize wall tickets. And I thought that was really well done. Things felt very well priced, but I hope that they're able to kind of limit those things in the future and, maybe potentially provide more cards that are out there. Make it so getting a chase set of all of them is maybe a little bit more difficult, not because we want to restrict people, but instead to provide more options. That way, then if you do want to just grind side events all day, you can do that, but you're going to be limited in the ways that you can get all those cards, and then maybe make them so you get better payouts in the future, which we'll talk about here in a second. One of the other things that I know was a big complaint was more organization for side events. My biggest concern was actually not the side events themselves. I thought they fired very well. But there were a couple times where either Melee was kind of thrown off or the judges were kind of hosting the side events, but were also being called to be judges because that was their job. And that made for a strange organization. On top of all that, I know that on Friday, while I was playing in the day 1 event, there was a ton of frustration because the line was very long. They learned from that, and I think that it got a lot better. I was grateful for their willingness to learn from it, and I really think that with a little bit more organization, it could go a long, long way. Now, I also want more artists. There were 6 of them there. It was so cool. Get more of them there. I thought that was such a neat thing. More artists is more fun. I would love to have so many different artists show up that I can bring all my cards, especially because prestige arts will be out if timelines go the way they're supposed to go. I think we're going to be at set 8 by the time that GCs are hitting next year. That gives you 5 sets of prestige arts that you can go get signed, 5 sets of hyperspaces that you can go get signed. I would love to get to do that. More artists, more artists, more artists. Please, FFG. I also hoped for more events later in the evening. Maybe if you're like me, you were just hanging around there all day long. I didn't really spend any time in the casinos, spent a lot of time in the Chipotle up in the food court in the Venetian, but didn't spend a lot of time anywhere else. And that was because I came there for SWU. I was hoping that more events would fire later in the evening. The hall was open until 9. And they stopped firing events at 6. I wish that they kept firing, even if it was just Twin Suns and Constructed, maybe, Twin Suns and Sealed. Something that, they were able to fire on into the evening. Twin Suns feels like the obvious one because those games can last anywhere from, 25 to 50 minutes. And they stopped firing them at, 6. And so there were 3 hours where you kind of had to get into a long event at that point. So more events later in the evening would have been awesome. I would love that. I felt like we were well staffed for hosting that as well. The staff was incredible. Let me say it again. The staff was incredible. I encountered no one who was been out of shape over how things were going. They were very adaptive, reactive, and they handled the crowd so well. Everything that every interaction I had with the staff member was incredible. So thank you, staff. Thank you, judges, for hosting so well. But yeah, I would love more events later in the evening. And I think that with more staff and a better prize wall system and organization for side events, more events can happen later in the day. I feel like they're going to learn from this. I actually really hope that this will happen because I think it's very attainable. They've learned a lot already, and I think we'll learn even more, from their debriefs, I'm sure. I also would love more panels. I didn't get to go to any of the panels. but I actually didn't get to go because they filled up. I would have loved more panels at different times, like having some of these panels that were later in the evening. Maybe if side events don't fire in the evening, maybe you have a couple big panels. Maybe you have some panels that like overlap, or like you have one at 1 to 2, and then you have one from like 1:30 to 2:30, and they happen in two separate rooms about two totally separate topics. You're not hitting an overlap of like players, except for the folks who like maybe it hits their niche. But like I would love to just have more of those. It was so cool to interact with like content creators and designers and developers, like I said. And so more of those would be awesome. I would love to just see more of that. That's something that like really scratches an itch in my brain when I get to hear like the reasons why designers and developers do what they do, or why organized play does what they does, all that sort of stuff. I'd love more panels. And finally, more free swag. Now, you might be thinking, Camden, you walked away with enough like promo cards to fill up a binder. You got so many sleeves and a mat, and you got, pins, you got all this sort of stuff. Yes, I did. When I say more free swag, I don't actually mean like the prize sort of stuff. I thought that was really well done and pretty generous. One of the things that I would hope for, though, is with this better prize wall system, the one where you can scan your lanyard, something that they were doing for the pins. I wish that they had done it for the Tyrannus promos. I wish that they had done it for, more of the event and been able to do more of that. I love that like the pins were able to be a thing. I didn't love that the pin passports sold out so quick. Like that was a frustrating thing. And it meant that if you weren't at the very front of the line or a VIP, you probably weren't getting it. I was lucky enough to get 2 pins, one of which I don't think I deserved, and one of which I got from designers and developers. So like, I kind of wish that I was able to get more of those. I wasn't able to. And so more free swag would have been awesome. Not in the sense that like I want everything to be free, but just an opportunity to get more of that. And if that means that it comes kind of baked into the ticket cost, so be it. Like charge me an extra $10 up front so I'm able to get more pin passports, or I'm able to get more Tyrannus promos or whatever. Like if I'm not seeing the price, I feel a lot better about it. And I was willing to spend some good money while I was there because I wanted to get some of these promos, but I didn't really want to pay secondhand for a bunch of these like pins that would have been awesome if I could have gotten them, but I wasn't able to. So that's why there's a little asterisk there. I don't think that there's actually a need for more free swag in terms of like giving us everything, just more opportunities. And then with that, I wish that there were more copies of the convention exclusive. I was lucky enough to get one, but like I feel like that could have been a cool thing that was con exclusive. There's twice as many there as there would be at like Gen Con or something like that. Just a way to encourage people to show up to GCs even more than they may already, because they have a greater chance of getting the con exclusive. So that's what I think about when I think of free swag. Now, here's my crazy GC wish list. When I'm thinking Galactic Championships in the future, here's what I hope. Here's some of the things that like total pipe dreams may never happen, but if they do, I would be so stoked. The first is kind of selfish. I'd love the event to happen in Atlanta or Indianapolis or St. Louis. I know that like Vegas is a pretty cheap flight for a lot of people, but it being like out west was like not my favorite thing in the world. Not that it was bad, just a further flight for me. Like I said, kind of selfish, but I tried to choose like 3 hubs. I know that Gen Con is happening in Indy, so like I get that. But yeah, I felt like that would be just an easy thing to do. I know it's the Venetian next year, and it was like an awesome venue. Like I loved it. So don't hear what I'm not saying. I thought it went really well, but I would love to see it somewhere else too. Even more exclusive cards. I felt like there were a lot of strong exclusive cards. I'd love even more of them. More cards that were like, you play in Twin Suns, you get this card. Or you play in a sealed event and you get this card. You play in a draft event and you get this card. You play in, the like standard tournament, you get this card. You play in the Galactic Open on day 2, you get this card. Things that were just exclusive to that event. Things that like made it so there's a little bit more of like a chase. I felt like a lot of people were able to get what they wanted, and I loved that. I'd love for more opportunities for unique cards. That way then it maybe encouraged people who were like farming Twin Suns all day long to go and play a Super Sealed event and get like this promo card that you only get with Super Sealed or whatever. Like, I think that would be a really, really cool way to do it. I'd love more exclusive cards. I'd also love more exclusive cards that like maybe were less relevant except for in the format that they are in. So maybe when you sign up for a draft event, everyone gets a card that is strong in draft and you're able to put it in your deck as a way of like, this is a strong card. Like, let's put it in there. Or maybe this is like a neutral card. Maybe everyone gets a constructed lightsaber, which I know the constructed lightsaber was, in the big like promo box. But like, that would be a really cool thing to do. Something that's like able to be put into decks. I'd love that sort of thing. I know a lot of people probably wouldn't. So even if it's just an exclusive card for each format, that would be cool. I'd love for exclusive cards to be at like the designer duel, like the designer draft. Or maybe if you go take a photo in the Millennium Falcon cockpit, you get a Millennium Falcon card. Like, they could have easily gotten us a promo for set 4 or something like that. And I know that's expensive because art costs and all that sort of stuff. So I understand why they don't always do that. But I'd love even more exclusive cards. It was cool walking away with a ton of swag. I'd love to walk away with more of it. Went back wrong way. I also would love a variable pricing system. I don't know if you were there, if you felt this, but I loved playing inside events. I would have loved for there to be a greater payout beyond the winner. Even if it meant that like the cost of entry was like $5, extra. Like, I would think I'd happily pay that if it meant that I was guaranteed. There are a few events where like you just straight up weren't guaranteed any tickets unless you won. And like, that's not super fun. I kind of wish that there was like a consolidation prize. And like, if there's exclusive cards given out, that also kind of does that. But a variable pricing system, something that like changes based off of each event, changes based off of like where you're winning. I got to play in the draft tournament, which is really cool. So like, you drafted, played 3 games, drafted again, played 3 games. And I thought that was really cool. And the pricing system was good there. It meant that I was able to like not only get cards, but to get more like, tickets as I was winning. It was very fun. The variable pricing system, I think, works really well and leaves less people feeling down about whether or not they won or not. I also would love more unique formats. I didn't get to play trilogies, but I heard it was awesome. I'd love more like crazy formats, stuff that's like, here's the GC's exclusive Twin Suns or the GC's exclusive Sealed or whatever. And the way that we have like a pre-release kit that adds something unique to Sealed, if we did something that was fun, that was like a GC's exclusive, or one of the things that my locals do is we play Twin Suns with Jar Jar. And everyone starts the game with the Jar Jar, and then suddenly chaos ensues. Like, I would love stuff like that. I felt like more unique formats would do really, really, really well. And just create something that felt really unique, especially compared to the other events. I'd also love an additional day, like a day that, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And even if Thursday wasn't like a main event day, if it was just something for people to show up, play side events, maybe the prize wall like has limited stock on that day. So it's not even like a let's farm tickets. It's just kind of a show up, hang out, play some games, get some prep, that sort of stuff. Maybe a couple panels on that day, all that sort of stuff. I know that's a big ask, so I'm not saying that it has to happen. Like I said, crazy GC wish list. So an additional day would be cool. And then finally, this is maybe the craziest thing of all, is unreleased product early. Now, you might be thinking, Camden, that's crazy. Why would they do that? Well, Intro Battle Hoth is coming out here soon, and they spoiled all those cards leading up to GCs, which made me hopeful that maybe Intro Battle Hoth would be able to be bought at GCs. Now, if they're going to do another, thing like Intro Battle Hoth, something that's not super competitive, but something that's showing up, in between sets as kind of like an abnormal way that they're putting this out there, I would love to see that be able to be purchased at GCs. Like, just as a way of saying, hey, these cards aren't even legal yet. Like, I don't think they should be legal. I think you can say the legal release date is the day that the product comes out. But, like, I'd love to be able to bring home Intro Battle Hoth and to say, hey, I went to this big event. Here's a new way to get players into the game. To have people able to be playing Intro Battle Hoth at GCs. Like, I know that there's a lot of logistical things, but that would be a crazy wish list item to just have products show up early. Like, I'm not saying you need to release the next set super early. I'm saying, like, if there's product that's coming out and it's already fully spoiled, I'd love to see it there. Like, I would happily buy some. I know everyone and their mother would happily have bought some, just because it would be fun to get exclusive product early. And even if it wasn't tournament legal, to just have it there to be playing with, I'd love that. Now, here's the big thing. Maybe you're thinking, I don't know if I want to go to GCs. I'm not a competitive player. I don't really care about the prizes. I've never been to a big event. Here's what I'm saying. If you are a competitive player, if you are playing SWU competitively, then should you go to GCs? Yes, absolutely. You should, because this is the big event. This is what it's all leading up to. So if you have the opportunity to go, absolutely, you should go. The competitive event was awesome. I felt like people were satisfied. And if you wanted to play competitive events all weekend long, you could do that. You could play in the main event and then in the Galactic Open. And then, if you bunked out of both of those, you could go and play like Super Sealed or win a box, something like that. You could totally do that. Now, if you're a casual player, maybe you've never been to a big event, maybe you never even made it to like a PQ or a store showdown. Like, first off, go to those. They're fun. Support your local game store. But also, if you're a casual player, should you be going to GCs? Yes. There were so many opportunities. I feel like if I was a casual player showing up to this, it would have only sold me on the game even more. I absolutely loved getting to talk with the designers and the developers, like I said, but I also got to hang with people who are running demos for like the Star Wars RPG or painting a mini for Shatterpoint. Like, I love, playing Shatterpoint. Like, I'll go ahead and show. This is my Kanan that I've been painting. Maybe you can see that. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so like I just wrapped up painting Kanan, and like, sure enough, I love Shatterpoint. I love that people were getting to play Shatterpoint. I think that's awesome. So like, yeah, if you're a casual player, show up, play Twin Suns, draft, sealed, play these demos for other games, just enjoy the time. It's awesome. I think it's worth the cost of admission. Like, you're getting a fair bit. I think it's totally worth it. And finally, if you're a draft and sealed player, should you go to GCs? Yes, absolutely. Draft and sealed was abundant there. We get drafts and sealed events to fire like relatively regularly locally, but if your local area doesn't do that, this is like the space for you. I know my buddy David over at Unplayable, he plays a ton of draft. He loves draft. And that's what he did basically all weekend long. We played draft tournaments, we played in draft events, because draft is fun and draft is awesome. If you want to be playing these like lesser known formats or these like side formats, which are now moving into the limelight because of everything going on with the competitive play season, like, yeah, draft and sealed, this is the place to do it. It's awesome. Now, here, let me share, just to wrap everything up, a couple of my like highlight moments for the weekend. One of the really cool things that I got to do was to play against people from across the world, but to also get to hear about how their love for the game has inspired them to play, more and more with other people, to show up in a big space and to say, hey, I'm going to get out of my comfort zone a little bit. Maybe I don't know anyone else here, but I'm going to show up and I'm just going to play games and meet people. I loved that. So thanks to Doug, my round one opponent, day one. He was awesome. It was so cool to just get to chat with him. You could tell that he really cared about the game. And it was a mirror match, Han2 Blue. And what happened is when we wrapped up, he looked at me and he said, hey, what could I have done better? We got to chat about that. And it was really cool to just start off the day with such a high note. I also got to play with a guy named Mark. And I'm going to grab something really quick because Mark was very generous. Mark, he was such a fun draft opponent. And what he did is he actually gave a little initiative token that was like for I think a local game shop near him. And it's got like an Initiative C's thing on the back. It's so cool. High quality stuff. Like, this thing is not cheap, I imagine. It was so cool. But I got to chat with Mark and to just be like, man, you are so cool. Like, he loves the game. That was awesome. I got to draft with a couple other guys from the UK in like similar pods. and just got to laugh with them and be like, oh my gosh, you lost to Vader in draft? Like, oh man, you had a constructed lightsaber swing for 9? Like, that's so cool. Like, I loved getting to do that. So thanks to all those guys. That was awesome. It was cool getting to see content creators there. I hung out with the Unplayable crew for a lot of the weekend, so shout out to them. Go check out their content. But I also got to just spend time with people who were learning the game. Like, I talked to a few people who, like, this was their first competitive event. And I was like, man, that's awesome. And so I actually use a Star Wars the card game mat, which is, FFG's LCG from years and years and years ago. And it was so fun when I sat down across from my opponent and they looked at it and they said, whoa, like, you've been playing for a while. And I was like, yeah, like, I got to share about how I've been playing these games since middle school and how I've been able to go to FFG Worlds for years and how this is like a highlight event for me because it's so much better than those already awesome events were. It was so cool getting to just chat with people, to see this love for the game, and then ultimately to get to celebrate the future of the game as Set 6 got spoiled. So be on the lookout for more talks about Set 6 spoilers as those start coming out. But man, what an incredible weekend. If you're interested in going to GCs next year, I highly recommend it. Jump on that early, grab a ticket, have a good time. It is so, so cool, and like, I can't sing their praises enough. Are there things to improve on? Absolutely. Do I think they will? 100%. Without a doubt in my mind, I think that the event will be even better next year. Now, as I'm wrapping up, I've got an outside thing. So I actually got to listen to some of the streams, and here's my funny story. My buddy Dan, he lives in Illinois. He does not know a thing about card games, tabletop games, whatever. Never played any of those. He plays Trouble and Sorry and Uno. That's about all he gets. Now, when I told Dan I was going to Vegas to play cards in this huge World Championships for a Star Wars game, what did Dan do? Dan pulled up the stream and all weekend long followed along, giving these little like funny texts to me of like, oh man, I can't believe that Han 4 flipped and was able to ready those resources. Like, things that he just shouldn't have known. He was talking about how like busted force throw was. He was able to follow along on these games on stream and to do so in a way that maybe didn't get everything, but by the end of the weekend, he was like sharing stuff with me as I'm watching these final games, sharing stuff with me like that, a new player probably wouldn't know. So my love goes to the game designers who made a game that's easy enough to follow, but also to the streamers, to the casters. Thank you all so much. You did a great job making this game approachable while also keeping it interesting for veteran players. That's so cool. That's my fun little anecdote from GCs, from someone who wasn't even at GCs. And because of that, it just signs the dotted line on how incredibly fun this weekend was. If you can go next year, I hope to see you there. I'd love to get to just chat with more and more people, and leave a comment down below what your favorite part of GCs was or what you maybe hope that they can improve on next year. And if you're able to leave your favorite thing or maybe what you hope for in future GCs, I actually have a giveaway. I'm going to be giving away one of these awesome cards from the prize wall, the like silver packs. I've got a whole bunch of them. I'm grabbing them right now because I wanted to, kind of show them. I've got a whole bunch of them, and so I'm super excited to have the opportunity to give away one of these promo cards. I think I've got one of all of them. If I don't have one of all of them right there, then like there's that. So there's all those cards. I'll be giving away one of those. So share what you're hoping for in the future for GCs. And I'll do a giveaway here in a week from when this is posted. I'll make sure to reach out to you. So when that happens, I'll throw that out there. But I'm excited for everything that is showing up for the future of SWU. And I look forward to GCs next year. Thanks for tuning in. And I hope you have a great one. Keep playing some good card games. And I'll catch you later. Bye.